If you've watched my content, you probably know I hold the opinion that the left is kind of going crazy. And I have a bunch of data now to explain how I've come to this opinion and why I think the left is going insane. So I tweeted this yesterday, and I was actually surprised. It got a ton of retweets. This is why they keep calling everyone far right. The right barely moved, and the left has gone off the rails. Let's take a look at this graph. This is from Pew Research. This is credible data. Here we can see in 1994, the median Democrat and the median Republican are both close to the center. In 2017, this is where the Democrats are as of the past 2 years, and the Republicans are here, but check this out. The Republican median has shifted only slightly to the right. Is that a shift to the right? Of course. Are there a lot of conservatives? Of course there are. But look at the shift from the Democrats. Is massive. Is what, 10 times the shift that Republicans had? So here's what happens. These people look over here and see the conservatives as being far away and say, wow, they're far right. When in reality, they are the far left and have always been the far left, at least as long as I've been alive. But there's a few important points to be brought up. First, take a look at where the Democrats are now and where they are now and where they were. And you can see that there were Democrats and even Republicans who line up where they're currently at today, which means these people have always viewed themselves as moderates. No one thinks they're an extremist. They think they're the rational center, always. Now that you have the median here, their ideas are being reinforced that they are mainstream, that they are normal, when in reality, you would still probably find most Americans average out somewhere around the middle. Although that's a big pull to the left. Why did Donald Trump get the support of so many former Democrats? And he did. I've shown other graphs where we can see that liberals and conservatives supported Trump. It's because the shift to the left was so dramatic in 2017. And mind you, this is before the midterms in 2018, where we saw the election of the far left into Congress. So check this out. Look at where the median Democrat was in 94. And look at the gap to median Republican. It's very small. What happens then is, as the Democrats shift ridiculously to the left, they're looking the same distance and saying there are no moderate Republicans anymore. Of course, this bump right here is probably never Trumpers, if you ask me. So even if you took the same distance of Republican compared to Democrat in 2017, the Republican, the gap they're looking at is still further to the left of the median Democrat in 94, which the point I'm trying to make is Democrats have moved so far to the left that they think people to the left of Democrats in 94 are far right or are staunchly conservative. Now, we can see there's a spike here, right? There's definitely some movement towards more conservative policy. Absolutely. But seriously, on a 10-item scale of political values, the left has shifted heavily away from American median, American norms. And there's more charts to go along with this. This is a chart from The Economist. It says swing left. Okay, I don't make this up. United States distribution of ideology of House candidates who won their primaries. Look at this. In the 1980s, we can see that the Democrats actually were slightly closer to the center than Republicans were. Republicans were a little further to the right. You can see where the median is right here. It's right of center. Over time, it starts to shift. Now, conservatives, they move around a little to the left, a little to the right, but for the most part, they are drifting slightly to the right, just a little bit. Look, from here to here, it's not that big of a drift. But look at the liberal side. Tell me that's not, how many charts do I have to bring up where I can say you have different professors, different metrics that show the exact same thing? The left is going insane. Here we have 2000. There was still an overlap between the two parties. And then something happened after Obama. And we can see this massive split. And now the median is swung far to the left. So look, the most Democrats as of 2018 are here. And they're looking so far away at conservatives, saying they're far right. Because to them, the same distance, as I mentioned earlier, would put someone as a moderate liberal. To someone in 2018, right here, they would look at someone in 1980 and say, wow, they're a conservative. And there's more. I'm not done. This is another chart that I've shown from Quartz. Here we can see, going by only the House, In 2016, look at this. Look at this swing. Now people are saying, Tim, you're proving that Republicans were just really conservative. Yes, Republicans used to be way more spread out with center overlap, but further to the right. Over time, conservatives have kind of reined things in slightly towards a more unified position. There is a median drift. Look at this. You can see the Republicans drift the median slowly and slightly to the right. But over several decades, we can see that the most extreme, the most far-right Republicans have actually come in as of the past 10 years. So let me stress this. You have about a 0.7 for the Democrats, and you have over 0.8 for Republicans. Over time, Republicans have brought things into 0.8. And while Democrats in 2016 were closer to the center than Republicans, the most extreme Republicans are, look what happens in 2018. These people over here, they're shifting the median, and they look to Republicans and say, you are far right. Now, some people are saying, oh, but this proves that Republicans have always been far to the right. Track the median, okay? And look, these are different metrics that track the same thing. This is a 10-item scale of political values. So what's happening is, very simply, I think part of this has to do with censorship, and I think it partly has to do with the susceptibility of young people to social media. So here's what we have. This is from the University of Missouri. We covered this on Subverse. I've covered it on this channel, my main channel. The Whisper Room. Moderates on Twitter are losing their voice, from April 3rd. The story basically says that it's the extreme left and right that are getting the most play. But who is more likely to be banned? When you get the most crazy sovereign citizen, ultra-traditionalist, white supremacist guy going on Twitter, they get banned in a heartbeat. What about Antifa? No, of course not. There are some personalities on the right that are accused of being grifters, of being the worst, of being nasty and offensive. And we'll name one, Milo, right? Milo's opinions are not that they're far right, but that they're kind of, I don't know what the right word is, heavily and hyper-focused and extremely aggressive is probably a way to put it. He's very focused on key issues, one or two things, but admittedly, I don't even know what Milo's been doing this past, year and a half, 2 years. He's been really not doing a whole lot. He gets banned anyway. But there are some people on the left I won't name that have the same amount of followers, that have done the same thing he does, that regularly do the same thing he does. They say extremely offensive and racist things. They don't get banned. Take a look at Sarah Jung. She gets a job at the New York Times. If you're not familiar, Sarah Jung is the woman who for over 3 years, I believe, was posting racist tweets. She gets hired by The Verge. She gets hired by the New York Times. Congratulations. If you have two factions that are blasting their extremes, but Twitter is going to ban the right, Republicans will remove these people from committees like Steve King. That's his name, right? And the left will ignore, defend, or platform. What do you think's going to happen? The average person who just says, oh, whatever you say, I'll vote Democrat, are now falling in line and following suit. But regular people, moderates, and those who watch the news, people like me, are going to say, what are you doing? You're going crazy. So let's go back to this graph. Here we can see, right here, that there are a lot of conservatives, Republicans, I should say, who overlap with Democrat median. You know what that means? Well, let me explain something to you. Here's the median Democrat 94. I'm to the left of that. But guess what? We can see that some people, even though they're to the left of where Democrats are, they're still Republican. I don't view myself as a Republican. Not at all. I don't even view myself as a conservative because I'm to the left of the Democrats who came before me. But I'm also not a brainwashed moron who takes Twitter seriously and thinks these people actually know what they're talking about. There are people on Facebook that I'm absolutely flabbergasted by because I've known them for years. They were at Occupy Wall Street, and they're arguing in favor of corporate oligopoly. I'm not exaggerating when I say that, and I am not taking them out of context. I posted this really long thread with facts, with statements from Supreme Court, with evidence of what was going on, and they say, I don't care. I don't care because you're, far right, you're whatever. They ignore it. They say, it doesn't matter. So you've got a Supreme Court ruling that social media is the public center and the cheapest and easiest to access in terms of listings, rentals, finding a job, staying up on current events. The Supreme Court unanimously recognized that. And that's something I found out from Will Chamberlain's Human Events article, which I think you should read on social media being platform access being a civil right. I post all these things. And then I then say, listen, Twitter said in a story to Motherboard, they actively ban innocent Muslims via algorithm because they think the public will find it acceptable so long as their target is ISIS. So let me explain this. Twitter is saying, you know what, we want to ban these extremists, these people like ISIS. So they implement a program that grabs them and then grabs a bunch of innocent people, including television broadcasters. That's what they said on Motherboard. Did anyone on the left see that paragraph and go, whoa, 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 you can't ban people for simply being Arabic or Muslim? That's a violation of civil rights. Oh, sorry. Section 230, broad interpretation, provides a protection from civil rights law. The argument being, Twitter is under no obligation under the First Amendment to speak for someone else. The government can't mandate that you can come to me and say, you should say what I want you to say. And because Twitter is choosing to publish these things as a publisher, they shouldn't have to host content that they don't want to speak. It's a First Amendment defense. Things get really complicated. It does. And it's territory that has to be navigated very carefully. The point is, what the left ended up doing was saying they took that story and turned it into something else. Twitter refuses to ban, the far right. That's what they took out of it. For me, I'm like, Twitter just admitted they ban people simply for being Arabic, for speaking Arabic, or for being Muslim, and doing nothing else. And no one cares. And I posted this on Facebook, and what did they say? But my private platform. And I was shocked. I was like, wait, what? We're talking about Muslims being banned for no reason. We're talking about Twitter lumping regular Muslims in with the worst extremists, and you won't defend them. Not only that, around 2,000 Twitter accounts that were pro-government, pro-Venezuelan government, were suspended for no reason. Well, Twitter says it was because it was interference, though they couldn't prove any connections to any organizations. No, it was Twitter accounts of people who said, I don't think the U.S. should be involved in Venezuela, and they supported Maduro's government. I personally disagree, but I'm not one to disagree with Maduro's government. But I'm also not convinced intervention is a good thing in any capacity, and I'm typically opposed to intervention for the most part when we go overseas and blow people up. Venezuela is a much more complicated issue. I still oppose intervention, absolutely, but it's the reason I leave that open to I have reservations is there's nuance in all things, and right, so I'll leave it at that. But I'm typically opposed to it. Here's the thing. In response to all of this, they just said, but my private platform. And it's mind-blowing to me that there are people actually saying, well, the government can't tell a private company what they can or can't do. What? We've got thousands of laws telling businesses what they can or can't do. What if Twitter was dumping electrical waste from their servers into Skid Row in LA? Yeah, you tell them you can't do that. Hey, you can't leave your garbage here. There's a lot of laws that affect people and businesses. In fact, there are many laws that specifically regulate specific industries. In fact, Section 230 is a law providing specific protections to online services. I think it needs to be changed. But I want to bring up a few things. This is from NPR. Democrats used to talk about criminal immigrants, so what changed the party? You're going to get a bunch of people on the left saying, Tim, the left hasn't changed, it's the right. No, that's not true at all. Bernie Sanders still opposes mass migration. The Schumer, Pelosi, everybody 10 years ago, opposed mass migration, opposed letting illegal immigrants into the country and giving them services. There's actually a chart showing this, that the Democrats deviated like 10 years ago. The Republicans are in the same spot and the Democrats shot to the far left. What I think is happening is that because of the censorship of conservatives don't see extreme opinions and don't coalesce around it. You see that there is some spike, absolutely. But what happens is social media companies over the past 10 or, now 15 years have been removing conservative opinions as being offensive. And that means that conservatives typically coalesce around cleaner, neat-looking individuals in suits. Whereas they leave up people like Sarah Jeong, who are overt racists and extremely offensive, and people say, hey, that's what's acceptable and normal, I'll follow that. And they're just being shoved to the far left. Now they're convinced they're the normal ones, but they're not. They're going far left. Nancy Pelosi recently came out and said that they need to stay in the center because Trump may contest election results. It's an interesting way to frame the story because what she's really saying is if they try and go far left with impeachment, it won't work. And they need to defeat him in 2020. She says they need to defeat him in 2020 by a margin so big he cannot challenge the legitimacy of a Democratic victory. That's ridiculous. They think Trump would get a gun and protect the office. Never going to happen. But ultimately, we see it time and time again. Democrats favor a more moderate party, but around half, 54%. The far left candidates are doing poorly. Yet what's happening is Twitter is amplifying the extremes. Fortunately for the right, it's actually a weird backfiring in censorship. It's protecting the conservative base from drifting too far under extremist opinions. Jordan Peterson says the right knows where to draw the line, the left doesn't. But it's not just that. It's that these left-wing companies, they've drawn the line for conservatives. And this means that conservatives have to stay fairly moderate, whereas the left is free to run amok. If moderates are being pushed down on Twitter, and you're an average person, and you go online, you see the left and the right. Well, the left keeps going crazier and crazier, and they're unrestrained. And so people just follow suit and say, sure. Then you get politicians endorsing the Green New Deal when the AFL-CIO says, hell no. If you're not, that's the largest federation of labor unions. If the Democrats don't support the labor unions anymore, I don't know who they're supporting. But this is what happens. They think Twitter is real life, when in reality, it's not. And so long as they keep chasing after this, and so long as Twitter won't deal with culling the extremists off their platforms, well, that's the end. The Democrats are going to go insane. I don't know what the solution is. All I know is this should be enough data to show you it's the Democrats going crazy. Now, I think Republicans got to rein it in a little bit for sure, but the Democrats have lost it. I'll leave it there. Stick around. I got more videos coming up later today. I will see you at 1 p.m.